Hey everyone, Gordon the intern here. So you may not know this, but I get lots of emails asking me relationship advice. So I'm going to use today's promo time to go ahead and answer a few of those. Here's one from Misty. Dear Gordon the intern, my boyfriend is super lame. What do you do to ensure a really hot night with your lady? XOXO Misty. Well, Misty, I'll tell you what I do. I head over to netflix.com/iFanboy so I can get a free trial. And while I'm there, I go ahead and rent a really great movie that we're both going to enjoy. Something romantic, something like Top Gun. What up, Gordon the intern? LOL. Thanks for reading my email. I have a hard time getting girls. What's the best thing I can do to score a babe? Word up, Mikey. Well, Mikey, let me tell you. If there's one thing that girls love, it's the internet. If they didn't love it, they wouldn't be naked all over it. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to GoDaddy.com and you're going to enter the keyword iFanboy. That's going to get you 10% off your purchase. And while you're there, you're going to purchase a domain name. You know, something that the girl's really going to like. The one that I bought a few years ago was www.iheartyouDanicapatrick.com. Let me tell you, Mikey, it works like a charm. You do that, you'll be smooth sailing. Alright, I got time for just one more here. Hey Gordon, did you get the gift I sent you? Kisses, Danica. Oh yeah, Danica. I got it. Thank you very much.
Welcome to iFanboy, the video podcast from the comic book discussion site, iFanboy.com. I'm Josh, and I'm here with Ron.
Hello.
And Conor.
Hello, and if you are a long-time listener of the audio show, we know for a while we used to get a lot of relationship questions related to comics, and that was a little confusing but kind of fun. And so then we read a few of those on the show, and we decided it would be really fun to do a whole show for that. So we've been talking about it a while, and now we're finally here. It's the relationship show.
Fun for us,
yes.
really.
Fun for us. And if you've got eyes, you can clearly see we're not alone. So we've got some special guests. We've got Lindsay.
Hi.
And Rachel.
Hi.
And Allie.
Hey.
So let's just get into it because we have a lot of people wrote in. We asked for questions. We called for them for a while, and people sent in a lot of stuff. So.
And now it may be important. We have extra panelists on the show because we didn't want to just give the boy perception, the guy perception, because we recognize we might be a little off with our advice. So we figure
we are by no means licensed, or we haven't been to school for relationships.
We might even be sexist. I don't really know.
We're really not the ones to ask about this kind of stuff.
If you follow our advice and it goes badly,
we're not responsible.
We take no responsibility.
This is for entertainment value only.
And this is the picture of the divorce. Sorry.
We're named in a divorce.
All right, so let's dive in.
All right, so the first email came from Hitman.
That's a problem right off.
Maybe it's a job issue with the relationship. His email says, I was recently able to get my girlfriend to read some comics. She loves Fables, absolutely loves it. She's on her 5th trade, but she's already worried that when she'll finishes all the Fables trades, she'll have nothing else to read. She didn't like blankets. She hated blankets. She's not really into what you would call chick comics. She has no interest in superheroes, and she's a little bit intimidated by how much there is out there in general. She thinks, I think Fables is mature as a comic, and that's as mature as she'll like. She won't go beyond that. She puts little stickies over the nudity in the book when she
No way. Does it say that, really?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
She puts stickies over the nudity?
She puts a little sticky over the nudity bits as she reads Fables, so I won't look at them when it's my turn to read.
What's the point of that?
Her favorite type of movies.
Joke, maybe.
Okay, maybe.
Her favorite type of movies are Disney movies and comedies. Favorite TV shows are Scrubs, Gilmore Girls, Beauty and the Geek, and Lost. I was thinking she'd like Bone, Runaways, and Invincible, but so far I've been unable to convince her why she'd like them. I'd really appreciate some help on.
So it's not like she's reading them and she didn't like Bone or
She's never he has to convince her first.
Yeah. So that's a tall order.
I'd like to. Why don't you just read the beginning of it? Were you that busy?
She's only read Fables, and that's about as he thinks that's her limit in terms of maturity.
So like Preacher would be a bad call.
That's about as mature.
Preacher would be a very bad call because there'd just be one big post-it note on every page.
Well, if you now.
But but Fables is fairly risque. I mean, granted, she's self-censoring.
Well, who here's read Bone?
I have.
Okay.
If you like.
Is that? Do you think that's appropriate for somebody who's too much for Fables?
I think it's perfect for somebody who's really into Disney movies and
there
shows
you go.
like Scrubs, because it's got the humor that's not
It's
just
a
for
little
little
wacky.
kids, but it's definitely.
So she
cute.
won't have to add any post-it notes to.
Not
to
a
Bone.
one.
No, not a single.
They don't
Oh yeah,
even
Bone
have-
is very.
So Bone, Hitman Bone is
The bones don't even have genitals.
And 2 minutes
They
in,
don't.
we said genitals. In case you're keeping score at home.
Runaways. I think Runaways might not be bad because it's a Marvel book, so
Runaways,
there's no.
I feel like Runaways is a connection to maybe Gilmore Girls, that kind of aspect of it, that kind of drama, extended,
Right.
relationship-y kind of thing. I don't know. Because
It's-
Runaways has that.
and it's
aspect.
also not risque because it's a Marvel book, so you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that.
And it's aimed at kids. I mean,
Yeah.
they do the digest size ones. Those are for the kids.
Runaways.
Because my big
everyone-
paws can't turn those pages.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, the Gilmore Girls thing that works. It's safe.
And I don't know about Invincible.
Invincible might be pushing it. I think that might be a little.
Well, you know what? It's not.
Anyone's read Invincible?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It's not. It's not sexually charged.
No, not at all.
It's
but
not that. It's violent, but it's also very potent family issues. So it's a real drama.
Right.
And so like the mother and has to deal with something, and as opposed to impotent.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that what
It's a
Josh.
very important book. Is what I'm saying.
I think what Josh said in the beginning is good. Is give her the book and have her read a little bit of it.
Yeah.
If she doesn't like it, then she didn't try something else. But
Yeah.
that's really the only way you can get to do it.
Yeah.
I love the self-censoring. All right, so we're going to move on to our next one. So Hitman, good luck with that. All right, so our next one comes from Brian. And he was kicking off 2006 at a local bar with a female friend. Is this a year-old story? Or is it 2007? All right. He was kicking off the new year at a local bar with a female friend, who was in turn bringing along another female friend of hers. So there are 3 of them. So while he's sitting there minding his own business, he sees the strawberry redhead walk in the room, and his mouth drops open. She's unbelievable. And I'm thinking she's way out of my league. She probably is. Somehow we get into an argument about who would win in a fight between Wolverine and the Hulk. Somehow they got into that argument. At that point, I'm not shy. As a matter of fact, I'm resisting the urge to ask her to marry me.
Overkill.
You might want to get to know her first. Anyway, it took me a long time to pull this one off, but I did, and now we're dating. Rad. Good on you. It's amazing to date a girl that he can completely geek out with. What's bad is that she's read more stuff than I have. When I saw you guys reviewing Mouse, I mentioned it, and it was something that she already had. Not only do I have to hide the fact that I read comic books from her, if I didn't read, not
You
only
didn't have to hide them.
not only have I not had to hide the fact that I read comic books from her, if I didn't read it, I probably wouldn't be dating her. Anyway, if you read this, can you say hello to Nicole for me?
So there's no question.
Yeah,
There's no question.
This is more of a. We got a lot of testimonials. We did. We asked for questions. We got a lot of people writing in to say, "Hey, I met this girl and she's cool."
Yeah.
Mostly, I wanted to get this on the show because a lot of these emails, people seem bleak about like hiding their, reading comics, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's completely, just have to try.
Do you think that do you think it's good that they have the same amount of interest in comics? Or do you think that maybe, because if you're both way into the one thing and not have, I think she's called him a noob basically for, you don't have Mouse, dork.
Well, he didn't say that.
No,
She just said that she already had
She already
it.
had it.
I'm
That's
deep
not-
into it.
He felt what's the word I'm looking for? Not insignificant. Yeah. He
Rachel,
felt.
what were you gonna say?
You and I are both into the same types of comics, and I think equally into comics, and we work out fine. So I don't think it's.
We don't even talk about them.
Not really,
I
actually.
mean, that's what's interesting is that you've seen the non talking about the comics when they're both read comics. I think that's kind of
That's true because Josh talks about comics all the time. And I read comics, but not as much.
But I mean, it also kind of plays to the stigma of kind of that idea of being ashamed of reading comics, and
Right.
it's kind of the
You'll
turnaround.
never never meet a girl, and a girl will be turned off by it. And
Right.
This is representative of a lot of them that we got like this.
So, but before we move on, we should say hi to Nicole.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, Nicole.
Yeah.
Zach from Portland, Oregon, he writes in and says, I just wanted to say that I'm one of your teen audiences. I just turned 18, and like many my age, I find a lot to consider when it comes to relationships. In my experience, most girls have found it really endearing that I'm a comic book fan. I might spout some random fact about Spider-Man or something, and they'd laugh and say it's cute. My problem is knowing when to stop laying down the comic knowledge. Once a girl tells me it's cute, I find myself just babbling about characters and powers and crossovers, and I'm talking, and I realize,
You shouldn't do that.
oh shit, I'm boring her now. My question is, should I just lay off excessive comic book conversation or hold out for a girl who doesn't mind or enjoys it?
That's a good question, actually.
I would be a terrible person to ask about that because I actually do that a lot, and I've scared away people in bars a lot.
With comic book discussion?
Yeah, like some guy randomly asked asked me about Civil War, and just started talking to him, and just got kind of really into it, and he could just see him like waiting
Backing
to
away.
bolt. You know,
Gotta.
go.
That's kind of a role reversal there.
Yeah,
He's
it's
the
just
guy.
Ron had talked about it a lot already, and he had enough. I mean, that's fine.
What do you think? Do you think being too into something is bad in a way?
I think in anybody who
Anything.
wears all New York Giants outfits and that's all they talk about, that's too much. You know, you want to be well-rounded. Yes, you want to talk about comics. It's cute that you know that little, and that's fun. But you should have something else to talk about. You should recognize that not everybody wants to know everything about the thing.
I would say the moment in your head you think that you might be talking about comics too much, just kiss her. Right?
See, my advice was going to be to just stop talking.
Yeah.
The
was
moment he
And
thinks.
then
trying
ask
to
her
convert
about
it into
herself.
something, you know?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. I
That's a
think.
good rule to
What
go
do you
by.
What do you think?
I don't really know.
And you go, and then the Green Lantern went into space.
Just clam up.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine.
I think
guess
if you think that you're talking about it too much, then you're probably talking.
It
You
sounds
are-
like he knew the
Yeah.
answer.
You passed the line at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Yeah, I would just. I think it's totally true. I found, especially when I was 18, that it was a plus almost to be reading comics in terms of meeting girls.
Really?
Yeah.
When I was 18, it was a stigma.
No. This is,
That's
I was
weird.
always
Was that
told
the
it was
same
very
year, though?
cute.
Yeah, it was the same year.
Oh,
No, we were in
okay.
different places though. I know. I mean, no, in 18 in high school.
He was
stuff
the
like
captain,
that.
though.
Right? Yeah, no, and I was, no, it's like,
But I didn't also. I never. You don't overdo anything. You can't overdo your sports. You can't overdo your comics, movies. I mean, if anything's overwhelming. You don't want to overwhelm anybody.
the tough thing is that everybody has their own personal interests, and everybody wants them to be validated by the person they're talking to and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And there's the thing is, there's a balance to respect because somebody might not be as into it as much as
Here's something else, and I only learned this recently. Apparently, if you just talk about what you like all the time and you don't let them say anything, that's a negative.
Recently, as in 5 minutes ago.
I didn't say I do it. I said I learned it. I know it's true.
So.
Figure out what they like, and then just pretend you're interested.
That is a very, very,
Yeah.
very bad piece of advice. That's the worst advice you could possibly give.
Okay, then really be interested.
That's the good one. There you go.
All right.
Good luck with that.
All right. So our next.
And then my new shirt.
Just stare at the tits.
You done?
And stare at the tits.
Sweet. All right. So our next email comes from Angela from California, who asks, "How does one find a guy who won't get turned off when they hear the word comic books?" Throw a rock.
Hang out at the comic shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was an unusual. This was.
Talk to guys.
It's really bizarre. Yeah.
That's like the reverse problem.
That threw me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So it's a girl who likes comics, and yet she wants guys who
Well,
are
she hangs around football lockers a lot, and
Yeah.
like
brightens up a lot.
sports bars.
she's in the like camping stores and things like that. So
Sears.
Change the venue.
Well, ladies, how do you find a guy that likes comic books?
I kind of
Fall down
accidentally found that.
Land on one.
But
He
it
asked
was-
me
it's
for an
been a
interview.
Yeah.
go to comic book signings where there are podcasters.
No, that's what I was going to say. When we were at the Jim Hanley's, right? When we.
It was Rocket Ship.
Oh, bro, sorry.
Ryan K. Vaughn.
Excuse me. There was lots of different people there, all
Yeah.
sorts of people. So
And if you're
I
in
would say that would be
California,
a good place.
California, there's so many good
It's
places.
a really big state with lots of people in it. So
Totally.
No, but
but also a lot of really good
They're good
shops.
stores. I mean, LA's got good stores. San Diego's got good stores. I don't know what city she's in. She didn't
There's always
specify,
events. There's always events.
Yeah.
And I know Angela's someone that we know from the website. She goes to conventions and things.
well, here's
Throw
my
a rock.
next thing.
Throw a rock.
Websites.
But, yeah.
And this is like, I believe, and Matt Fraction and his wife met and got married because of the Warren Ellis Forum
Yeah.
Wow.
before either of them
Okay.
had done any pro comics work or anything like that. So that,
Yeah.
stay on the message board.
But I think if she's finding guys who are turned off about comic books, then she probably shouldn't be with them anyway. I mean, if that's what
That's
she
true.
likes and they don't like
Exactly.
them, then don't waste your time.
Well, but then does that beg the question that can you not be with someone who doesn't like comic books?
If something really important to you and someone really has a problem with it, then probably it's probably not.
Well, yeah. I
I
mean,
totally agree with Connor.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone's not going to be supportive of,
Yeah.
they
even
don't
if it's a
necessarily need to
hobby,
embrace it as much as you do, but they should.
They don't need to
Right.
love it.
Yeah.
But if she's
They
turned
shouldn't
off by
hate
it,
it. Yeah.
not she, but if the guys are turned off by it, then
Yeah.
that's probably going to be a problem down the road.
Fair enough.
Definitely.
Okay. Our next email came from Kevin from Pittsburgh. This is a question directed to Josh. So you're on the spot.
In the spot.
He says, I'm getting married in a month, and since Josh was recently married. I figured he might have shared my worry. My fiance doesn't really understand my enjoyment of comics or the amount I spend on them, and says things like, I see that you're not going to be reading those every Wednesday after we get married. I've tried to get her into the medium, and she wants none of it. Did you have any of the same problems, and if so, how did you get past these issues?
Well, she's right there. So
She's right here.
run.
Watch what you say.
Here, go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Run.
I heard that.
You know what? I don't want to tell you that that's a problem, but that sounds like a problem.
If you were talking hypothetically about someone, that would be a problem.
I mean, I hope you're not going to stop reading comics or doing something that you really enjoy, and I hope that she wouldn't be the kind of person who would want to take that away from you. As long as it's not, harmful. If you're, reading comics all the time and getting tattoos.
As long as it's not spending the mortgage money on comics.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than spending your time watching sports or sports.
It's a hobby, but no,
Yeah,
it's a hobby.
You're sportsman.
I know you're all about the sports.
I'm not very sporting.
This question kind of feels like I know I have a penchant for it, but like then 90210 kind of drama-y, where it's like, listen, if you're gonna be with me, you got to drop that. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of that kind of like that black and white ultimatum kind of thing. And it really, that's the nature of a relationship, is to you each have your own kind of things that you take.
The thing is, if you've set the precedent that you read comics and you have all along and you buy them on Wednesdays, why in the world would that change? That's like after we get married, you're not going to watch TV anymore. Like that doesn't make any sense. So I would have that conversation with her before the wedding. And say, listen, this is something I like. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm serious. That's a real thing.
Just so you know, they already got married.
All right. I'd like to apologize to Mrs. Kevin.
We should go back and tape over that part.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that,
Hopefully
Kevin.
they work that out.
We hope it worked
Isn't
out.
there like a cutoff point where you can just
Okay.
annul it?
Okay. Now wait a minute.
Well,
Now that you
There's
are
actually
married,
a catch to that.
The Britney
Because
Spears rule.
if you do something,
I've got
you
this.
can't do that.
You're already married, right?
Yeah.
So you need to find something that she's doing that you can throw it back in her face.
Oh, nice.
Well, you spend this much on makeup.
I don't think that's
I'm
healthy.
so sorry for you.
This is his on-camera person.
He's completely
We're
different off
gonna
camera.
get to this issue in another email, so we're gonna table that for a while. Josh, did you want to read this next one?
Jesse from Maine says, here's the story in a nutshell. He's from Maine. Friend of a friend who I never met is one of those rare girls who reads comics, and she lives in San Diego. Knowing that I am borderline obsessed with comics, she put us in contact. Tommy, shut up.
Tommy.
She put us in contact with each other, and we began talking. Naturally, our mutual obsession of comics and her living in San Diego, the subject of Comic-Con came up. She invited me to stay with her during this year's Comic-Con. I have to just fly out there. Should I be fearing for my life, or should I jump on this chance immediately? Keep the following in mind. 1. I live in Maine during the summers. 2. She's drop-dead gorgeous. 3. I never been to Comic-Con before. My friends aren't being very helpful on this matter. Their comics range from, have you married her yet? Or, you might want to meet her. And then they pull the lobster trap up. So basically, is it weird to fly across the country and stay with a girl you never met to save hotel costs in San Diego, thus saving money to buy more loot and donate to the show? Show. That was a lot more fun than
Ladies?
Since you're all incapacitated right now, geez. I don't think it's a good idea to stay with somebody you have never met on any precedent. You must meet her outside of her apartment first. I just don't think that's safe.
I think that's probably true, but I was going to say go for it.
I didn't know. Go for it. Meet her first.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but...
It's her place.
But the tough thing is that you got to keep in mind, if the backdrop is Comic-Con, if you don't have a hotel room now, you're not getting one.
That's true.
So it's
Use her.
That's
So
true.
yeah, so the tough thing is that if you're gonna go and you meet at Starbucks and you have coffee and it's not there, you're homeless for the week. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
like you're sleeping outside of Ralph's with that guy.
And
in the
thanks for
shopping
watching,
cart.
but you're
You
not
ever
staying
seen
with
Fatal
us.
Attraction?
And
Yes.
You might be better off homeless.
I feel
There's
like
always
that's the
risk you have
minority.
to take. that
Okay,
you're
wait,
gonna
no,
have
let's okay.
the
It's
money
like,
to pay.
hang on. There's 6 of us here. We're all in our late 20s. Used to be in our
I'm
late
not.
20s.
You're not.
Whatever.
You're old like me now.
We're oldish. We know enough people. Has anybody ever actually met someone who tried to kill them? I know it's funny and it's good and stuff like that, but
dated them or just?
Oh, I really probably shouldn't be asking this stuff.
Furthermore, it's a girl. I mean, like unless she is going to murder and rape him,
Right.
you know.
Hey, that
If
happens.
she's
No,
comfortable
it does, but
with
it's
it.
less likely. It doesn't happen as much.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't happen as much. I say it's one of those stories. You know, it's like if it works out, that's the friggin' best story ever.
I think he should do it.
The worst risk that you have is 4 days of awkwardness
Yeah.
if you don't get along, and that's worth it for the
Well,
chance.
but you can lose each other on the floor of
Well,
the Comic Con too, and
Yeah, and also there's no real implication or commitment to have a romantic relationship. They at the very least are now friends.
That's
They
true,
can
we're jumping
stay
ahead.
friends.
Yeah, if it
They don't
doesn't
have to
work out,
like, make out on the
it's just
couch as soon as they
yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he crashes on our couch
Well-
at the very least. They've already shown they've got a friendly rapport
Wait,
online. If there's no romantic connection, he just
They
Maybe-
can at least hang out.
But maybe you're waiting in line for free Naruto headbands, and then you like lock eyes, and then like.
Can they like video chat or something? I mean, is there some
Good
way to
call.
bridge the gap?
I assume
you know?
they know what each other looks like.
He says she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
They've talked. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Why not?
It's no different than a
Go for
long
it.
distance.
Go for it. We are not held responsible for any advice we
Definitely.
give you.
Hell,
Go
no,
for it.
that's if it works out, that's awesome.
We've
that's
already
like the best story.
Yeah,
ever.
the disclaimer's already been met.
Yeah.
This is
So.
yeah. Ron.
She cut me. He's gonna find us on the floor with the camera. Look what you fucking did.
Okay, so our next email comes from Chris, who starts his email off with, Christopher Francis Barry, get in here right now. You spent how much? Apparently that's what he hears his wife shout when she yells his name every week when she finds out when he gets back from the store on Wednesday. She sees the receipt and she
There's your problem right there.
He knows he can get comics cheaper online, but he wants to support his local comic store, where he spends $20 to $30 a week after his 20% discount. Not too bad. He knows most if not all people have a higher tally. He's tried to get her into it, but she won't have none of that. So now I'm the only one married to a comic hater. How do I curb this dilemma so that I don't keep having a flashback of my mom shouting that I forgot to take the garbage out again? How would you handle this?
You're not the only one. There's Kevin.
P.S. You ain't helping none either. Each time I listen to the podcast, I find something else to buy. Thanks for keeping me in trouble. And thanks for keeping up.
iFanboy, putting you in the doghouse since 2000.
So his wife doesn't like how much he spends on comics.
Well, this is what Josh was getting into before. Is if it's $20 to $30 a week, there's got to be something she spends $20 to $30 a week on that.
yes.
Yeah, shove it in her face.
Yeah,
You
like
know what I mean?
like tampons.
Does she not?
Yeah, we spend $30 a week on tampons.
God, is that, you don't need to buy the really good ones.
Oh,
Just get the generics.
it won't stop.
Sorry.
Well, the mic's on.
Are we rolling?
Red light. That means people are gonna.
No, but that's a very good point. Is that
No, but I don't mean throw it in her face. But I mean, she's got to have interests of her own that she spends money on that he's not into.
It's not a huge amount of money unless you're on minimum wage, in which case you shouldn't buy comics.
He's
anyway.
not one of those crazy people that spend $60 a week on comics.
Yeah.
I don't know who those people are.
You know what you should do is you should have the conversation and say this is something that's important to me, and maybe come up with an allowance like you spend this much. Like I have money that I can spend on personal things, and so does my wife, and that's what you spend it on.
How much do you spend on a week?
I would say I'm in the 20 to 30 range. Probably, I'd say that's about where I am.
Now, is there
Do you
is,
care about that?
No,
is there an amount that's too much for Josh to spend at the comic store every week, or do you not
I
care?
don't really care as long as we can pay our bills and stuff, and
I
he's
got-
happy. It's fine.
I've got my own money to spend stuff on what I need to. I can spend it on my lunch. I
Yeah.
can spend it on clothes. I can spend it on comics. That's what I do.
Scenario: he starts bringing home a statue every week.
Well, I just don't. It's fine. It's
Are you
totally
anti-statues in general?
fine. No. I just, there's, there were points in our time together where there were lots of things out in the open, and we kind of, fixed that.
There was a
a little
negotiation.
bit.
I got
There
to
are
leave.
still things around the house which I really don't have a problem with, but there was a time where we were confined to a small space, and that's all that was up was just.
And I understood that.
Shelves and stuff.
But I get to put the Jaws boat on the mantle.
I like the
Oh, I
Jaws
had
boat.
that.
Jaws boat's
Yeah.
cool.
I see that's a shared interest.
That's a great one.
The
But there's,
love
there's
of
not
But,
like there's no point where you're going to be like you're spending too much money on comic books.
What's
I
your
mean,
limit?
I don't have a number because I totally
Pick a number.
think it's something important to him, and that's.
Well, the other
that's
thing is
fine with me.
it depends on how you personally do your finances within your
Yes.
family. Like we have a system that we each have a certain amount of spending money, and then the rest of our money
Right.
goes to bills or savings or whatever. And what we do with that spending money is our damn business.
And if you spend $300 on comic books, that you're not going to be eating for.
Yeah, like I won't have
for a
lunch
couple
money.
Weeks, so
Or I won't be able to buy something else.
So you
Yeah.
let him starve?
probably
Nice.
yes.
Like, but true, if I came to her, I go, I spent all my money on comics, she'd be like, that was dumb.
It's better than comics and cocaine.
Well, it depends on your point of view.
Yeah, true. I guess so.
All right, well,
That got weird.
yes, it did. Brian from Clemson, South Carolina, he writes and says, a few months ago, I was over at my then girlfriend's apartment checking out online subscription services for the whopping 7 monthly titles I collected at that time.
It's like $20.
This, of course, sparked a conversation between me and her about money and the amount I spend on monthly comics. She thought that $21 a month plus a few trades here and there are entirely too much money to spend on a hobby. Of course, when I encountered with the fact that
Her name is Olga, and she's very serious.
most collectors spend astronomically more money than I do on comics, and that she spends nearly $100 a month on cable and internet, not to mention the last spring she spent $300 on a cat, the conversation quickly turned into an argument. We eventually broke up, and I moved out of state for my postgraduate work. I used the money I spent on her to expand my monthly titles to 16.
Stick it to her.
Booyah!
But the memory of being chastised for spending too much money by a spendthrift clothes horse irks me to this day.
You're awesome, dude.
My question is, have any of you guys ever encountered this argument in your years of collecting comics? And if you have, how much is too much? And what did you do to extract yourself from this kind of situation while doing a minimal amount of relationship damage? I ask because I plan on engaging in another serious relationship once I lick my wounds.
I'm planning
And
on engaging in another relationship.
Excuse me, ma'am. Would you like to engage in a serious relationship?
Women that are sympathetic to my monthly fix I either don't find attractive or they don't dig large, jocular, bald guys. So,
He's calling from in the house.
no, that was Ryan. Ryan from Clemson.
Brian.
Thank you, Ryan.
So if you got up with this problem in your relationship, how do you fix that without completely destroying the relationship? Rachel.
I think the problem in that relationship is that he was just with a very self-centered person. Like, comic books aside,
And she will never watch this, so she
and
doesn't know we're talking
you know,
about her.
maybe, because it's his point of view and not hers, he's being very, very...
Yeah, well, the lens is through his perspective.
Yeah, but any relationship should be about compromise. Any relationship at all. So I think that,
The well was poisoned to start with.
yeah, I think that was just a bad egg. Good move breaking up with her and moving out of state.
Yeah, it's glad to see
Yeah,
that it
I agree.
Like $300 for the cat was there. That was your first.
I
sign.
would spend $300 on my cat if her life depended on it.
Well, also,
You're
I
gonna let
think
the
maybe
cat die.
he instigated the argument by comparing comics to her companion animal, kind of like a
Yeah.
good way to get it.
Well, the thing is, that's by doing that, actually, like, everybody's got things that are differently important to her. Her cat's important to her, and your comics are important to you, and apparently, she didn't see it your way, and you didn't see it her way, and
No, we get a lot of the emails were also about arguments. We said in the beginning about money and comics. Why do you think it is, or is it that comics are more apt to being attacked for being a frivolous hobby?
I think it's because it's almost seen as childish by people who don't read them. So it's something that they could say, like, you could easily cut that out of your life. You don't need it.
Right.
Even though all of us know that it's
It's
really
as valid,
important.
it's as valid as
But do
anything
you think
else.
those people would pick on whatever the hobby was and just
I
say,
don't know, I'm
Well-
just curious if it's comics that are more apt to being.
I think so.
attacked
I
that
think
way.
that it's definitely, because, like you said, whoever was willing to spend $100 on a cable bill. Well, that's a different form of entertainment. And how much time do you watch TV versus how much time do you spend in comics and how much money you spend on those things, or going to the movies. Like, I can spend, what's it, $10 to go to the movies? That's 2 hours. I can spend $10 on comics, and that's 12 minutes. But either way,
It's as valid as anything else. It's
Exactly.
valid entertainment form.
but you're
but
right.
the stigma exists, I think, that
It's
easier.
very valid, but it's not nearly as common. Like, everybody has cable except for me, who doesn't even have a TV. And everybody goes to the movies, but not everybody reads comics.
Right.
So
I think the perception is, like, along with it being a childish form, is that it's like silly.
I think the idea that it can be easily cut
Yeah.
and like you can roll on, and that's someone else saying that to the person, like, oh, you can cut the comics. I mean, there have been times where I've been in a financial crunch and been trying to figure stuff out, and people outside of the world be like, oh, well, how much you spend on comics? And I was like, oh, don't touch, like I would cut cable or something like that before I cut my comics.
You
So,
have to now.
yeah.
We got this show.
I know, yeah, exactly. but I mean, like, that's, like, it's easier for somebody, outside of it to criticize it.
Podcasts aren't helping these people either.
No, they're not at all.
I think that woman should date Kevin.
I forgot.
Then she'd really have a problem. He only bought 7 books a month.
Yeah,
That's
that's.
That's like 2 a week.
I've never bought only 7 books a month.
She's got to be spending at least that much on cat food a month.
That's a good point.
How much is cat food?
I spend about 20, 25 a
That's
month.
too
Yeah.
much. You spend too much on cat food.
Well, my
I was role playing. I was doing that.
It was a joke. Oh Christ! It's on tape too. Move on.
No animals were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Unfortunately.
All right, so our last email comes from Brody from Reno, Nevada. Brody's getting married in July. Congratulations, Brody. And he's trying to sneak in as many comic book things as he can get away with. Do we have any ideas? I'm trying mostly to fit in any Batman just because he's my main guy. And everyone I know knows that, even though I consider myself a Marvel guy. And kind of a second part of the question, did you guys add any comic book things into your weddings?
She very emphatically shook her head.
You know what? Go ahead.
Like he wanted to do some.
Who, Josh?
What we were gonna do? Yeah.
Okay.
We
I'm not
did.
talking about Brody.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know Brody.
Chief Brody?
So, no, but we were trying to do something. We were gonna do Superman or something.
There were two comic. They weren't even comic book. They were that realm fandom sci-fi related things that happened. We were going to play the Superman theme from the Williams Superman theme in the recessional, which we didn't do at the last minute because of something else that happened. But it wasn't because we were like that's inappropriate.
No, because
then the other part was for a select group of people who got save the date cards. They had Admiral Akbar on them.
Oh, I forgot.
And it said it's a wedding.
And they were only his friends, so
like they only went out to
like my mom getting that.
8 people. She didn't get not everybody got those. But
The funny thing about that was that wasn't meant. It was a joke.
Huh?
Because I designed your save the date cards, and I sent that as a joke.
Patrickson.
Oh yeah,
Patrick-
No,
Yeah,
Patrick did.
or whatever. It started off, and then we're like, oh yeah, do that. That's. I think it was never intended. It wasn't like you're like, oh, I want to do the save the date cards like that. I just thought it was
Right.
funny. It just kind of
But
happened.
we
that
did
way.
it.
Yeah.
But it didn't go out to everybody. It didn't go out to her mom.
It's a trap.
Right.
Not,
But
you
I
know.
think if you personalize your wedding, because we definitely, in other ways besides comic books, made it ours.
I think what he didn't put in his email, which is important, is what his fiance thinks about this. Because if she's cool with it, then there's no reason not to.
And if there's something that really is important to him,
Yeah.
and I mean, like, she should be open to, making, because that would make it his wedding, if he wants to do something.
And there's there are those people who get married in full stormtrooper gear, or
Don't do that.
if they're into it, that's cool. I mean, I tend to be my point of view is to do kind of subtle touches and like little subtle suggestions. If you can do that, like if the guy, the two people on the cake, throw an action figure up there. You know what I mean? Like the little subtle kind of like, oh, that's cute. Look, he's into that.
Yeah, I think if they're both cool,
Yeah.
then
Oh, you know what? We had
It's cool to
a
personalize.
Yoda pen at the
With the sign-in.
the
thing.
sign-in table had like little things
And
like
the barrel
that.
monkeys.
But for the most part, I mean, it depends on your sensibilities completely. Like for my sensibilities, like I don't want to be wearing a Batman tie when I'm getting married because I'm a clothes whore. But
Are you married to this dude? Or
I was married to that dude
you're
in the
dating that dude.
70s.
Yeah.
And then me and
Brian from Clemson, did you date him in college?
I was in the military, so I can't talk about
Sorry,
it.
okay.
I mean, I would say on some of that, some things maybe you want to let it go. I mean, that would be my advice. It's your wedding. You could just.
If it makes him happy, then sure.
Yeah, I mean, if she's okay with it or not, but if you're getting any resistance on it, there's lots of, you can have a computer monitor where you can put action figures and do stuff, and you can read comics all you want, but maybe on the wedding day, don't lean on that so much. I don't know. I mean,
But if there's one or two things that he wants, just like you said, subtle. I think
subtle.
is
I mean,
good.
like the recessional's a great idea.
I
Like,
know a couple who walked out to the Simpsons music at the end.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
that.
there are little things like that you can do that kind of scratch that itch, and the people who know will know, and they nod. And they
You know,
go,
you could
"Oh,
have a Batman cutout at the reception. I know a couple had an Elvis cutout. It just hung out. People took pictures with it. Just
Or
why not?
get a bat signal cut in ice. The ice sculpture of the bat signal, that'd be badass. And like a light going through it, so it's kind of on the wall. That'd be really cool, dude.
it really depends on your sensibilities.
Right? Wouldn't that be cool? I don't even like Batman. Fuck that. And I think it would be cool. I'm just saying.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think also, is there a family issue too? Like the.
Well, that's the thing is that the majority of weddings that I've attended and stuff like that, there are lots of people, and if the audience that would be into that is small, like sometimes the weddings you got to cater to the majority of people that are going to be there, and so
Here's the thing,
don't
though.
shove it down
Your
their throat.
wedding is not for you. It's not. It's for her somewhat. I mean, I loved my wedding, but a lot even bigger than that, it's for the family.
Well, it's also for the supervillains who crash it and then they fight.
Listen, if
That's true.
supervillains crash it, you want to have Batman.
Exactly.
Like, what you should do? You should ask the photographer to dress up like Batman in black, and don't explain it to anyone.
That's brilliant.
That's
It's better than the ice sculpture. So.
Yeah, so that's
Totally out of my ass too.
So this is just a sample of the questions we got in. I mean, we got in a lot of comic relationshipy things.
So clearly there are two things going on. One
Yeah.
is there's a lot of tension between couples over money in comics. And the other is people find who they're looking for. And they find people who like their comics and accept it or even read them, and then everyone's pretty happy. So
Sounds like you should everybody needs to be upfront about the fact that they like comics and not be ashamed of it.
yeah, don't be ashamed of it all.
And then, but don't overdo it, like with anything, you know.
And the thing is that you can find somebody who's into comics and you can be into comics together, or you can find somebody who's not so much but respects it and has that balance. I mean, I think we're not
And then eventually, over time, you can get them to start reading comics. Some of them, but don't force
How
them.
long did it take you to start reading comics after you started dating?
A while, I would say.
What was the first thing I gave you?
Strangers in Paradise, I think. I think because Ron suggested that would be the good thing.
You know what? But that was bigger. I think that Pedro and me.
Not that. I didn't.
Oh,
mean
you're
like
right.
That. That is completely. I didn't like that.
Yeah, maybe it might have been Pedro and
I used Pedro and me because you were familiar with that stuff, and I was like, this is really good, and it's a great thing
You
for
watched Summer
somebody.
World?
Yeah,
You know these people.
I did.
It was a really good thing. So this is one way it can be, and like that's the key, because those preconceptions we were talking about, people think comics can be one way or another, but like if you can show them something that to you means something and you think to them will mean something, and it's all about that specific tailoring. You can be like, this is what it can be, and then they go, oh, it's something else, and then there's other stuff, and then eventually, like, you're reading Kirkman books, you're reading Invincible,
Yeah,
and
I'm
The
reading
Walking
like
Dead.
the trades that come out every whatever.
Right.
When do they come out?
What if they never come out? Sons of bitches.
8 months.
I know.
Yeah.
But like early on, I wouldn't have given you Invincible because you would have been like, I'm not reading this.
Yeah, but it's great. I'm sorry.
But I think the important thing is that the relationship is actually probably slightly more important than the comics.
Yes.
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, like don't define your relationship by whether they read comics or not, whether you like the same kind of comics or that kind of thing. I mean, it's really cool when they do, and it's really cool when it balances or when somebody's open to it or stuff like that. But
But at the same time, if it's a major.
they're just fucking comics, people.
True, but at the same time, if it's something you like and
true.
And as the one guy, his wife hated them,
Right.
or girlfriend hated them, then that might be a problem.
Right. Well,
That's also indicative of
it's
a lot
easy
of
to speak the same language,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so.
It's
It's all about respect, people.
That's true. Ultimately.
All right, I'm hot.
So if you have any relationship questions or any kind of problems with your significant other in the realm of comics, you can write into contact@ifanboy.com, and maybe we'll answer them on another show.
Yeah, maybe next time people leave some relationship voicemails,
That'd be cool.
we can play some, and you can call the voicemail line at 888-FANBOYS, which is 326-2697.
And if you want to talk about this episode and share your relationship issues, you can go to.
You could go to iFan. I was looking at the keys, and I was like, God, which one's Ron's? Because I didn't want to get that. You could talk about the show, the episode. I blanked completely at iFanboy.com or the forums at Revision 3. We'll have threads up, and you can say you guys are full of shit, or oh my God, you saved my marriage, iFanboy. That'd be awesome, by the way.
That would be really cool if we saved the marriage, or we.
And we can do this all sorts.
I mean, it'd be cool, but for different reasons.
It'd be all sorts of other stuff to talk about at the site too, and come by. It's fun.
Yeah. So we got a wedding to get to, so we should
It was
get
a
going.
prom. Is that a
Yeah,
prom?
it was a prom.
Oh.
You said it was a prom. It's a wedding?
It's a wedding, actually. Yeah.
I thought someone died.
Back to